good evening. It's been a good productive day today. Once a year, round about Halloweenish, I like to get out and do a bit of community service, a bit of voluntary, public service work, cleaning up the community a bit, lessening the burden, doing what I can. And this year, I thought I'd take a little wander down to the local estate agents. So I went down the high street, went to the estate agents, and did my usual patter, went in and said hello, introduced myself, asked them to justify their existence. At that point, the usual happened. They didn't even know what I was talking about. They couldn't justify their existence. So this afternoon we ended up with, I let the receptionist go. She seemed nice enough. But there were 5 or 6 actual estate agents. They got blood eagled in the shop window. Hold on a second, I need to clean myself up a little bit. Sorry about that. I do apologise for the terrible state I'm presenting myself to you in. Blood eagled them in the shop window. Gathered quite a crowd. It usually does. A few members of the public. Dear, what a mess. A few members of the public came and helped me move all of the little photos of houses and flats out of the way. And they helped me mount them on the hooks as well. I took some big hooks with me. It's quite hard work getting them through flesh, muscle. So the public helped me out. Obviously the police turned up. They have to, they're obligated to in these sort of situations, obviously. The police turned up, and as soon as they saw that it was estate agents blood eagled in the shop window, they shook my hand and said, fair enough, mate. Me and a couple of the attending officers went through the pockets of the estate agents, helped ourselves to a couple of nice brand new Audis out of the car park. It's nice to do your bit for society. Know that you're helping out, and I wouldn't be surprised actually I'm kind of secretly hoping there might just be a little bit about it in the local newspaper next week. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Get to be a little local hero for the day. Anyway, that's cleaned up about as best as I can be bothered. Happy Halloween. I've got 6 paranormal-ish stories for you. There were originally 7. These are all things which I've experienced myself, not just stories that I've heard. There was a 7th, but that one is, I'm not going to include that on this video. That one's going to be on Mike Weapon Collector's, oh God, it's everywhere, isn't it? Blood. Mike Weapon Collector's Halloween night live stream premiere type thing. He's doing that 10 o'clock Saturday night. So this one story that I've done for Mike's video, it's not necessarily suitable for kids. It's the subject matter's a bit unpleasant, so that one's not for kids. I've saved that for Mike's channel. If you want to see it, you can either watch his live stream from 10 o'clock on Saturday night, or afterwards. Obviously it will still be available to watch on his channel after the event. So we've got 6 stories entitled Black Shapes, Moving Bags, Will-o'-the-Wisp, Danish Castle, Ghost Dog, and Quarry Trumpets. Now, I'm going to try and be I could talk for ages on these, but I'm going to try and be quite brief because it'll end up being a really long video. Now, these are in chronological order. The first one, Black Shapes. This is going back to when these are some very, very earliest memories, probably 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old. I used to, out of the corner of my eye, all the time, see these little black shapes, and it's like they were following me. Everywhere I looked, Not everywhere I looked all the time, but, you know, every so often I'd just see something out the corner of my eye, and I'd turn around and I'd see this black shape dart behind a bush, dart behind a car. It's like they're always trying to not be seen, you know. I'd glimpse one, I'd turn around to look at it, and the second it saw me looking at it, it was gone. It just disappeared, but jumps behind something and hides. Now, a little bit later on, when I was probably about, I think I was about 12, when that Patrick Swayze film Ghost came out. And I'm pretty sure most people have probably seen that film. There are these black demon, shadow, ghost from hell things that come and grab people and drag them away. You know, bad people. When bad people go to hell, you get these black shapes that come and grab them and drag them off to Hades, you know. When I saw that, when I was about 12-ish, something like that, I, at that point, set it in my mind that that's what I'd been seeing. And they just gradually disappeared. I stopped seeing them, but they did worry me. I became quite scared of them, and it was quite often that I saw them. It wasn't very pleasant for a 3 or 4-year-old kid. I don't think I ever actually I don't remember ever reporting it to anybody. I just sort of kind of accepted that these things were there and they were to be avoided because of their nature, the way they'd get out of your sight the second you turn around to face them, you know. That kind of just petered out eventually and never happened again. I've got an explanation for that one. I'm going to put explanations to most of these at the end of the video. Of course, later on in life, with a bit of hindsight, you do figure out what most of these things are. Although I'll say there are 2 that I can't explain. I still can't explain. Okay, moving on from the black shapes. A little bit later, when I must have been about 9 or 10, I got sent up to my room for doing something. I don't know what I'd done. I upset mum and dad and got sent to my room. And I was sitting up there in my room on my own. And my bed was a mess. All my clothes and toys and everything all thrown all over the place. And there was a carrier bag all screwed up in the corner in the bed. And I think I might have been playing records. I might have been sitting there playing some records on a record player. But all of a sudden, this carrier bag in the corner of the bed moved. It started to expand and roll across the bed. And that was pretty frightening. I legged it out of the room. I ran downstairs and told mum and dad. I said, "Mum, it's bloody moving on its own. I'm not going back in there." And I said, "Don't be so stupid. Get back in your room." I got back in my room. I was absolutely terrified. I was absolutely terrified. There was no apparent reason at the time as to why this carrier bag would start moving across the bed. I don't think it was moving towards me. It weren't quite that dramatic, but it was, yeah, put the fear of God into me, that did. And it stuck with me for a while. I was really scared of going in that room. It was my bedroom. You know, I had no choice. But it was, never saw my bedroom in that house in quite the same way again after that. Again, obviously, I've got an explanation for that one. Right, the next one's Will-o'-the-Wisp. This is one I can't explain. I call it Will-o'-the-Wisp. I suppose some people could tell the same story and call it a UFO, maybe. You might call it a UFO experience. I took it as a slightly more sort of folky, rather than technology, UFO-y thing. I took it as more of a sort of folk-tale-y, ancient phenomenon sort of experience. There's a local beauty spot called Dunstable Downs. And when I was, probably 18, I'd have been 18, 19, I had an old 1970s Volkswagen Beetle, all nicely customised and all the rest of it, you know, lowered, flared arches, big exhaust on it, loud sound system, you know, little idiot's car. So did quite a few of me mates. Quite a few other people also had VW Beetles and buses as well. You know, they had camper vans and Beetles. And we used to go up to this beauty spot in the evening and meet up and park up and just sit around and have a good evening of it. And one evening I was sitting up there and nobody else had arrived. I was sitting up there on my own. And I saw ahead of me, I'll just describe the landscape a little bit. Where I was parked, it was at the very top of the Chiltern Hills, where the Chiltern Hills comes down nearly as a cliff and meets the low flatland of the Vale of Aylesbury. So I'm sitting at a very high point looking out over a vast expanse of very low flat land. Now, at the point where this high ground meets the low ground, these are chalk hills, and there's a lot of springs in that area at the bottom of the cliff face. It's not quite a cliff face, you can actually walk it, but at the bottom there's a lot of springs, obviously, bubbling up from under the chalk hills. And it was in roughly this area that I saw a white glowing ball of light, and it was low. It wasn't up in the sky like a UFO. It was quite down low to the ground. It was rising and falling at various points, but I'd say not by that much. I would say it was probably only slowly, very definitely rising up to probably about 20 feet or so, maybe 20 or 30 feet, before it changed direction and moved to the left or to the right or back down again. I probably watched this thing for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I just could not make any sense of it whatsoever. It was dark, of course, it was night time. It had very definite slow movements. It didn't flicker in any way like it was one of these Chinese lanterns or whatever. I don't think it was anything like that. It was a very white, solid, steady glow. It's difficult to get a real sense of how big it was, because it's difficult to tell exactly how far away it was, but I took it as being about the size of a football, about that sort of size. I saw it at ground level. It rose up, it sank back down. I saw it move along, and you'd see it appear and disappear as it moved through bushes, trees, whatever, closer to ground level. And it would rise up again and sink down again. And then eventually it sank down and it disappeared, and I didn't see it come back again. So you get these tales of will-o'-the-wisps. Some people talk about earth energies and water spirits and this sort of thing in folklore and traditional mythology. That's the sort of thing that I've taken it to be. I don't know what the hell else it could have been. It certainly didn't strike me as aliens. But it was really nice to see. It was quite entertaining. I didn't feel threatened by it in any way. It was just a really unusual thing to sit and watch. This was about, what would it have been, 1997, 1998-ish. So nobody had phones or cameras on them. I wasn't able to video it. I wish I could have done. But it wouldn't have been much to video anyway. It's people have filmed this over and over again. I've seen here's the thing. I've seen videos of crop circles where people have videoed these orbs flying around crop circles. It's very similar to that. That's the kind of thing it looked like, only slow and definite in its movements, not whizzing around all over the place. I don't think I'll ever find out what that one was, but it's just, I hope I don't. It's nice to have that little mystery in my head, Next one, Danish castle. I was in a castle in Denmark. I was over there for work. This was about 2002, I think. I was over there for a couple of weeks for work. And the company put us up in a hotel. And because we were there over the weekend as well, obviously they entertained us over the weekend as best they could. It wasn't much, but we got taken to this castle somewhere in Denmark. I can't remember where. Billund, I think it might have been. Anyway, went to this castle, and I was standing on a kind of a balcony above some sort of grand hall. It looked like a big grand hall, a big dining hall, or large space, very ornate. And it had this balcony that went all the way around the top, all four sides of the room. So I was standing at one side, and across at the other side, I could see this white mist moving along the balcony, roughly about the size of a person. Wouldn't say it was shaped like a person as such. It didn't have discernible head or limbs or anything like that, but it was roughly the size, width, height of a person, and it was moving its way along the balcony. I rubbed my eyes, looked back, and it had gone. For a while, I thought I'd seen a ghost in a castle. You know, classic place to see a ghost, obviously. When I stopped wearing contact lenses and went back to glasses, I stopped getting all of these little eye floaters all of the time. I actually found contact lenses to be a nightmare. I reckon that was just an unusual eye floater. That's all that was. At the time, it did look kind of, what the hell was that? You know, I looked twice, I rubbed my eyes. It had gone. I thought, wow, was that a ghost? And for a couple of years, I thought, oh, I think I saw a ghost in that castle. I think I just saw some dodgy contact lenses that needed changing. I think that's probably the explanation to that one. Now, there's actually, no, there's only two I can't explain. This is the other one I can't explain. This is ghost dog. I lived in a building in about 2000 and I can't remember exactly when this was. It would have been 2010 to 2012, something like that. I lived with a large group of people in a sort of an alternative community, sort of big hippie squat sort of place, basically. And we had a Jack Russell, a little dog called Jack, and he was very, very sociable, very sociable. He loved his big pack of, there was 25, 30 people lived there at any one point, and he loved this big group of people. They were his pack. Made him a happy little dog. And anytime he heard somebody, he'd come trotting along, and it was all concrete floors in there, tippy tappy, trotting along on his claws, come to see whoever was around. And you'd always hear him coming down the stairs. I used to go in there and use the facilities, and you'd hear him you'd hear him come down the stairs with his little claws on the concrete steps going as he runs down to see you. He was a great dog. He's the cleverest dog I've ever known. I wouldn't call him the cutest, I wouldn't call him the best, but he was by far the cleverest. He was a brilliant dog. And this noise of Jack coming down the stairs, it was part of the ambience, part of the background. It was just one of those noises, you know, that you just hear all the time, and you take no notice of it. But Jack died eventually. He was quite an old dog when I met him, and he died eventually. But I would still, after his death, I would still regularly hear coming down the stairs. I'd walk into that particular building, and as is such the habit over a few years of experiencing this, every time you walk in the building, you'll hear Jack coming down the stairs. I was still hearing that after he died, and I can't explain that one because there weren't other dogs in the building at the time. There were cats, but cats don't make that sort of noise on the steps. Cats walk differently, and their claws are much smaller. They don't make those noises. But up until the day we left, which was probably a good 3 or 4 years after Jack died, I'd still regularly hear his little footsteps coming down the concrete stairs when I went in there in the morning. And I'd always say, sometimes even out loud, "You all right, Jack? Morning. Hello, boy." You know, that's an odd one. Can't explain that one. Okay, what's left? We're nearly there now. Right, this is the last one. Now, to understand what the hell I'm talking about with this one, you need to go and have a quick look at a video on YouTube by a guy called That Chapter. Reason being, he's got a recording of what it is I heard one night, very recently actually. It's October now. Back in, when was it? It was late August, early September. I moved house, and just before I moved house was when I heard this noise, this unusual noise back at my old place just before I moved. I've called this quarry trumpets because you see people talking about these noises on the internet, and the nuttier, more religious types describe them as the the Armageddon trumpets, signalling the end of the world. But people do hear this funny noise here and there all over the world, and there are plenty of examples of it on the internet. I was leaning out my window one night, I lived right on the edge of town. So it was one of the very last houses in town. And after that house, it was just open fields. There was a quarry, and then more and more open fields. So I was leaning out the window one night and I heard this noise, and it was like nothing I've actually heard in person ever. It was frightening. It was loud. You could feel it as much as you could hear it. Everything was, you could feel things moving, you know. And it went on for a good 10 or 15 minutes. It came and went for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it was some of the most terrifying noises. Really unsettling. We're not talking about foxes or anything like that. This is, I just don't even know how to describe it. It's like somebody is grinding mountains together 10 miles up in the sky, is maybe a bit of a way of putting it. It's such a weird noise. If you go to a channel called That Chapter, and I'll put in the description, where you need to go to hear this exact same noise that I heard. He's called That Chapter. He's a really good channel. He does lots of paranormal, unexplained stuff. He also does unsolved mysteries, gruesome murders. He's very entertaining. Young Irish lad. He's a good channel. The particular video you want is called 5 Unexplainable Things Captured in the Woods. Obviously on the video there's 5 unexplainable things. This is actually, luckily for us, it's the first one on the video. So just watch that video, and the first item he covers is these noises. He's got some examples from, it's a pine forest. It sounds, by the accents of the people involved, it sounds like it's probably in the southeast of England. It's a pine forest, and you can hear exactly the same sounds that I heard out the window that night. Now, my explanation for that one is the quarry. There is a quarry about 2 miles across some very flat open land. I could kind of explain these noises as heavy machinery being dragged off of a flatbed truck, and that noise just somehow messed with and amplified by the landscape and the weather conditions. I can see how it could be that. It's quite a mechanical sounding noise. Anyway, go and watch That Chapter's video. You will hear exactly what I heard, and see what you make of it. I'm kind of explaining it as, I don't know the exact situation, what could have been going on at the quarry, but it did sound as though it could be heavy machinery being dragged against other heavy machinery or against rocks, and then just the shape of the land and the wind and everything else messing with that noise a little bit as it blows across the fields. You know, it's also notable that where I heard it was an open, wide landscape, as was this this pine forest in That Chapter's video. Yeah, anyway, so do we have paranormal or not? I don't know. Reality is questionable. Who knows what's real and what's not? I personally think, in a way, everything's real. If you can think it, it's real. Right, enjoy Halloween. I'm going to drink some beer. I'm going to howl at the moon for a bit. And I'll see you soon. Take care.